channel. Now, this is the first time I filmed a preview in here. Where the heck can you go? What about right here? Perfect. Hello everyone, welcome back to Foster the Meeple, a channel all about board games and board gamey things. I am back again today with another pumped up Kickstarter. And today's preview video is on That's Wizard from ManaWorks Games, who very kindly sponsored today's video. Now, as per usual with my preview videos, this is not an official how to play. Rather, this video is more of a general overview to help you figure out whether or not this game is a good fit for you. I'm going to have the links. Everything that you need will be in the description below. So if it sounds like a game you're interested in, go to the description and click the links. That would be fun. That's a fun thing to do. A few other things to note. This is a prototype, so anything that you see is, of course, subject to change. Now, That's Wizard is a game for 2 or 4 players. So just so everybody knows up front, that's kind of the player count for this game, and it plays in around 30 minutes. So I say, without further ado, let's dive down to the table and learn a little bit more about That's Wizard. Welcome, Wizards! Today we're taking a look at That's Wizard, a fast-paced spell-slinging card game of magical duels. That's Wizard is a deck-designing card game for 2 or 4 players where you will attempt to defeat your opponent with a deck of 7 spell cards fueled by your power, which represents your magical energy. In doing so, you will have to protect your stamina, which represents your health. Each duel will consist of multiple rounds in which you and your opponent will choose which spells to cast against each other. You may also have to choose how much power you wish to spend. You're going to win if you reduce your opponent to 0 stamina, or if you're able to force them to forfeit with a special spell such as Disarm, Death, or Mind Control. But what does any of that mean? I am glad you asked. I just said a lot of words. So maybe let's take a closer look at how the game actually works. Alrighty, let's just take a little look down here at the table, at the setup, and everybody's like, it looks so different. I know. Our beautiful Rathskellars table is currently upstairs. We will still be doing some filming on it, but it does not fit in this room. So this is going to be the filming table for now, which means we get to enjoy our Rathskellars table upstairs, which is kind of awesome. Anyways, so this is the setup for a 2-player game. All right, so everything that you see and what I'm talking about today is for a 2-player game, but just know, once again, you could play 2 or 4. Each player is going to get one of these boards where you track your stamina and your power. Everybody can get a reference card, so there's turn references on one side, setup references on the other side. Then we are going to have some dice. One player will be playing as blue, the other will be playing as yellow. You will take the corresponding colored dice. We also have some time tokens here, victory tokens here. We have power dials, and then we have our 7 spell cards. Before we get into how it actually plays, I would love to tell you how you win. So in a game of That's Wizard, each duel that you win will grant you a victory token, which are these star tokens here. 2-player matches are won when you gain 2 victory tokens, and 4-player matches are won when your team gains 3 total victory tokens. So you're going to be playing over multiple rounds until that win condition is met. So in That's Wizard, every match is broken into duels, and every duel is broken into rounds, and each round is a tense showdown of planning, bluffing, and magical timing. So the first thing that you're going to do before the duel even begins is you're going to build your spell book. Okay? So players are going to secretly build a spell book. Now, what I want to mention is, and I specifically left the rule book out here so that you could see, if it's your first game or you're new or you don't want to build your own decks, you don't actually have to. There are suggested decks in the rule book as well as some strategy tips with those decks. So for the purposes of today's preview video, I've actually set up the yellow player as the crone and the blue player as the Dark Lord. But if you go through, you'll see there's lots and lots of different pre-built options for you, okay? Now, each of the spells comes from one of the 7 different schools of magic. So there's things like charms and jinxes and curses, transfigurations, and each has a level from 1 to 4. So as an example, if we're looking here at this chaos card, the level is actually down here in the corner. This is a level 3 card. That's also outlined here when you're building the spell books. If you're using one of the pre-built, it will tell you kind of what level each of the cards is essentially, okay? So to include a higher level spell, you must also include the lower levels in that same school. So as an example, if you want the devastating level 4 death curse, you'll also need to include level 1 to 3 curses in your book. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, boop, 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 boop. Yes. So our blue player has the death curse here. So we have, you'll see this skull here showing kind of what school it's in. So that's a level 4. I have a level 3. I have the level 2, and I have the level 1. So you need to include all of those in order to have that level 4. In order to defeat your opponent, you will need to cast spells, and in order to cast spells, you must spend power to play spell cards. Spell cards will indicate how much of your power you can spend when playing them. Some spell cards will have a choice of 3 different amounts of powers you can use to play them, while others will have a single choice. The amount of power you commit to using when playing a spell card is called spell power and is abbreviated as the letter P within the card text. So you'll see here, we'll just use a chaos card, why not? So this will say deal P damage to your opponent, so spell power damage. The more spell power, the more powerful or longer lasting a spell's effect actually is. So let's take a closer look at the spell card. Now, we've already kind of talked about this blue bar here is the level of power that is required for the card. This symbol here is who the card is targeting. This arrow is showing that it's targeting your opponent. Focus, as an example, doesn't target your opponent, it actually targets you. So that's what the arrows are indicating. And in the rule book, we have a whole legend of icons that you can refer to as well. Now, the lightning bolt is referring to a quick attack, and then some of them you'll see actually have this symbol here, which means it's lasting. So there's different kind of variations of how the spells will act. Then we have a when, which lets you know when that effect is going to happen. As an example, with chaos, it happens this round, and fear will be starting next round. So that's outlined on your card. Underneath that, we have the effect, which is going to describe what the effect of that card is. Everything is written out on the cards themselves. So please make sure that you read the cards carefully, even before starting the game as you're building the deck, so you know how your deck actually works. Then there's another line here called lasts that tells you how many rounds that spell will last if it has a lasting effect. In addition to spells, you will also have 2 special action cards called Focus and Counterspell. Let me find those. Pow, where's my counterspell? There it is. Boom. All right, so these are your special action cards, like I said, Focus and Counterspell. These cards do not require power to be played. Your spell power dial should be set to 0 when playing them, and just, this is your spell power dial, so this will be set to 0 here when playing these cards. Special action cards are not counted as spells, and therefore they are not affected by cards that specifically interact with spells, and they also don't count towards your 7 spell limit for your spell book. Focus will let you restore your power to full, but it will cost you an entire round to do it. Counterspell will block your opponent's spell completely, but it drains your own stamina more and more if you chain it across rounds. Now, at the start of each duel, like I said, you're going to be creating your spell book, but something else you're also going to do is you're secretly going to set aside 2 spells from your spell book into your sideboard, kind of as your reserve. These cards won't be available during this duel, but you can swap them back in for the next one. So if you're kind of getting a feel for how the deck that you've constructed is working in these duels, and you're like, I could really use one of these other cards, you can swap them in. It is definitely important, once again, to keep these a secret, so don't let the other player know kind of what you've got hiding under your cloak for later duels. This adds another layer of bluffing. Do you hold back your strongest spell for a surprise later? I don't know. I don't know what you want to do. I also mentioned this board already, but to start, you will set your stamina to 20 and your power to 10. And just so you know, if your stamina ever hits 0, you lose the duel. Let's talk about round structure. Every round will follow 7 steps. The first is start of round effects, so any ongoing spells from the last round will take effect now. These are the things like the lasting spells, so once again, the ones that have the little hourglass kind of up in this circle here. So these are going to stay out over multiple turns. As an example, this one here will last my spell power in rounds. So the spell power of this card is 3, so it will last for 3 rounds. So I would put, as the yellow player, 3 tokens on that card. Next, we are going to choose and set our power. Both players will secretly pick one spell from their hand and secretly set their spell power dial to the amount they will spend. Some spells will let you choose from multiple power levels, giving you flexibility. So all of my cards are arranged. This one is 2, 3, or 4, 2, 3, or 4, 8, 9, or 10. And all of the range is going to give you some flexibility. It might also affect how the card works. So as an example, with the silence, if I had spent 3 power, then that lasting effect will last 3 rounds because that's what the card says. But if I had spent 4, it will last 4 rounds, like giving it a little bit more longevity. Then what you're going to do is you're going to reveal. So both players will flip their cards and their dials. Oof, I just pulled the one right off the top. Scary. Both players are going to flip their cards and the dials at the same time, and you will then spend your power by reducing your tracker by the dial amount. For fear, I would do 1, 2, 3. For death, that's 10. It's probably a bad example, but then you're going to determine turn order. So the lower power will go first, and if you're tied, you're going to roll a die to see who decides the order. So in this example, the yellow player would go first because they have a power of 3 versus the blue player with a power of 10. Then you're going to resolve the spells. So players will read their card text aloud, replacing the letter P with their chosen power. For example, let's look at fear. So I had cast 3. This says, effect, whenever your opponent takes fatigue, increase that amount by 2. And this will last 3 rounds. So remember, I need to put these 3 tokens on it. And just so you know, the when is starting next round. So nothing actually is going to happen yet, but I will put my timing tokens on it. And I'm going to pull a different card for this because that's just that was very aggressive for like a first round. So I guess technically this player would have gone first. So let's just roll that back a second. I just felt like death, it's just a bit much, you know? The world's crazy enough. So with Embrace Pain, it's a power of 2, so they would go first. This also has timing. So when, starting next round, whenever you take damage or fatigue, regain the same amount of power. Now this is going to last P plus 1 rounds. So I had put through 2 power, but this would actually last for 3 because it's my 2 plus 1. And then as we remember, we've already read through this one. Boom, we would have this. Okay, so that's how we've resolved these spells. The cards are going to do a ton of different things. I just happened to pull out 2 cards that aren't going to do anything until next round, but some of the cards will deal damage. When that happens, it will directly affect the stamina. Some may cause fatigue, which represents indirect harm like curses. Some will apply lasting effects that continue over several rounds, maybe even force a forfeit outright with special spells like mind control or that scary, scary death card that we have. Let me just read you the death card. So this says, this happens this round, if your opponent has spell power +1 stamina or less, you mortally wound them and force them to forfeit the duel. That's one of those examples of you're just going to forfeit outright if you could play the death card at the right time. The final step is cleanup. Now, if you've played any quick spells, such as Chaos, love that one, the quick spells are going to return to your hand. Lasting spells will stay on the table with tokens showing how many rounds they'll persist. Now, we've already kind of talked about winning the game, but let's go over it again. A duel is going to end immediately if a player's stamina reaches 0. It can also end if a player forfeits due to a finishing spell, once again like death, or if they can no longer legally play. Each duel win earns a victory token, and matches are the best of 3 in standard play. Now, if you're playing 4, you're actually playing in duos mode, essentially, so it's 2 teams, which will battle side by side, sharing a pool of spells and racing to collect 3 tokens as a team. So, my friends, that's Wizard in a nutshell. This is a straight up dueling game with a lot of variety based on how you're going to build those decks, set your reserve cards, and play the cards you have. There are a lot of cards to choose from. So I just want to point out that both the blue and yellow deck are identical. So if you're like, why would I choose blue over yellow? Doesn't matter. The cards within them are identical. It's all about how you set them up. These are all of the cards that you could possibly get and play. So that is a lot of different cards giving you a lot of different variability in your play. Now, your question might be, who is this game for? That's Wizard is perfect for duel lovers who enjoy head-to-head strategy, deck building / constructing / customizing. So if you enjoy that approach and surprising your opponents with what you've come up with, if you enjoy making different combos, creating characters, I'll also mention now, like I said, in the rule book, they give you different characters that you could play, but if you create your own, make your own character. Why not? That could be super fun. Like, this is the boy wizard. Maybe you want to be the girl werewolf. I don't know. Make your deck and call it whatever you want. I think that's pretty cool. This is also for fans of bluffing games because it does have a little bit of that. Half the fun is predicting what your rival is going to do next. And of course, for fantasy enthusiasts who want a quick magical battle full of dramatic spells, reversals, and clutch counter spells. The game is streamlined enough to learn quickly, but deep enough to reward clever play and replayability. The rule set itself, pretty straightforward. The strategy and the depth is going to come from making your deck and actually learning how to optimize it. Maybe you want to play with the same deck over and over and over again, or maybe you always want to try something different. You kind of have the space and the freedom to play this game however you like. But I do want to just point out again that it's really important to make sure that you read your cards, you know how they synergize with other cards, and just to have some fun. My friends, if you're looking for a card game where you can outwit, outlast, and outmagic your friends, that's Wizard might just be your next favorite dueling game. Once again, if this sounds like a game you might be interested in, I will have all the links. Everything you need will be in the description below. But that is everything that I have for you today. Now, if you're interested in buying board games, you should first start by checking out your friendly local gaming store. And for us, that's the Boardroom Game Cafe. And if you like what you see, please subscribe. I hope to see you again soon. And now I say goodbye. Goodbye.